My thing just fell. Are we live? Is this my beverage? Are we raw and unedited? Raw vlog, recorded in front of a live beverage. Raw vlog delivered to you raw and unedited. We used to be in a truck, go and getting a cup of coffee down at the local coffee house. But then the COVID, man, we had to stay in. Now I'm in my home office, but we're still gonna do this in front of a live beverage, raw and unedited. Raw vlog. Good morning and welcome to Raw Vlog number 58, where my guitar stand falls under my feet. Yo! Raw vlogs, as so stated in the song, is raw and unedited, delivered to you raw and unedited, recorded in front of a live beverage. Right now, my beverage is tea, and yeah, because I've already had my coffee, you can tell how long I've been awake by what beverage I'm on. If I'm still on my coffee, I got up not long ago. So, today's Raw Vlog, if you're unfamiliar with the Raw Vlog over here on the Airhorn channel, the Raw Vlogs are basically just kind of me telling you where I'm at, what's going on, giving you a bit of news, and we generally have a kind of philosophical discussion that is at least somewhat related to mountain biking. I always try to connect it to mountain biking. And again, this is the Airhorn channel, and the Airhorn channel is my companion channel to my main MTB ALAN channel. Check that corner link. Actually, that won't be there now, but you know what it is. It's probably in the description. And once this goes live, I'll probably put the corner link up there. If you're watching this much later, what's up, bearded MTBer? Good morning. Thanks for coming along. Yeah, today's subject, we're going to be talking about this sucks. Like why this sucks. That'll make sense eventually. Let's jump into news. This channel just hit 300 subscribers, so pretty stoked on that. Slowly on the way to 500 subscribers. I'm not super thanks, Bearded Empty Beer. I am not super like trying to push this channel growing really fast. I think like my MTB ALAN channel was when I first started, I really just kind of wanted to make that as much of a core channel as possible. And this is really kind of what this is now, where if you are here, if you are subscribing to this, it's because you are into, getting into the little bit more nuanced and more kind of philosophical conversations that can happen around mountain biking and applying all that to life in general. So yeah, congratulations everybody to getting us to 300 subscribers. I know we got quite a few just this last week, so I'm like super stoked on that. Ian Barner, I'll get to that in a second. I'll try to remember that, is asking about the new Pro line at Snow Valley. They appeared on full send with several big gaps. Yeah, I'll try to come back to that actually. Yeah, so in other news, this last week, August 3rd, was my 1-year anniversary of my wrist injury, when I just destroyed my wrist. Have what the ortho told me was the worst possible wrist injury you can get, and since then it's been a really long year. I mean, aside from everything that's been going on in 2020, aside from that, like, it's just been a long time since last August when I had that crash. And just recently in the same week was the actually, that's my Stoke of the week. We'll get to that in a little bit, but it's my 1-year anniversary and some really cool things happened this week. I don't think I have any other news. Yeah, that's my news. I'm trying to think if there's stuff I forgot from last week. I don't know. I can't remember. Let's move along. Stoke of the week. I'm going to start with my Stoke of the week because I will forget it after I get to your Stokes of the week. But that being said, please put in the comments if you have a Stoke of the week, and I will read them out next week. I'm not going to do them right now, but put them in comments down below when you get a chance, and then I will make sure and read them out next week, so that our Stoke of the week is what it should be. It should be a shared Stoke. So, okay, my Stoke of the week this week is that for the first time in a year, I was able to do lifts with the barbell, and I'm talking like Olympic lifts. I was able to do a clean, pretty much a clean, hang clean, power cleans, different kind of cleans. If you don't know what they are, look them up. They're called Olympic lifts. It doesn't mean I'm Olympic in any means. It's just the lifts that weightlifters do when they go to the Olympics. So it's been a really long time since I could do that. And the fact that I could do that says a lot about where the recovery is on my wrist now. Let me get to the next Stokes of the weeks that were shared with me last week. One is from Kerwin Warren, who I think is a regular Stoke of the Week submitter, if I'm not mistaken. Stoke of the Week, riding Exchequer mountain bike park with my girlfriend. Her first time riding a blue trail or a black trail. She rode Dirt Surfer and Down and Out. That's freaking rad. Getting your significant other into mountain biking is really cool, and watching them progress, I'm super stoked on that. I can totally relate to you, Kerwin. That's kind of, I've experienced really similar things with my wife. And I'm going to share this. Eric Ramos did not share this as a Stoke of the Week, but I'm going to share it as your Stoke of the Week, Eric, because this seemed pretty Stoke worthy and share worthy. Eric says, I started taking online MTB skill courses that have helped me tremendously. Ryan Leach does a great job of coaching, and I can track stand, hop, and learn to manual. If you don't know Ryan Leach, it's the Ryan Leach Connection. It's an online coaching service where I believe I don't know if you're online, Eric, but if you are, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you pay for that service, you can actually send in your videos and then you get direct coaching like online. Pretty cool stuff. I need to do it. That website is regularly open in one of my browser tabs, and I never get around to actually doing it. And then he says, I found I could ride fast, but had terrible balance going slow, and my track stands looked like I was seizing, which I thought was like pretty awesome. So yeah, congrats, Eric, on doing that and taking that leap. I know you had some apprehension about hitting bike parks. I just kind of want to tell you, if you go and you pick the right trails and take your time and give yourself a break, you'll have a good time. Let me see what's going on in the comments here real quick. Abbas says, I just injured myself this weekend on Party Wave at Snow Summit. The jury is still out on exactly what it is. Sorry to hear that. Hopefully you've gone to urgent care or the ER and got it checked out. I definitely always suggest everybody, anytime you have any major crash, go to urgent care or the ER, get it checked out. My wrist, if I hadn't have gone in and I hadn't had a procedure done that night, would have been a lot worse, and I probably wouldn't be anywhere near as far along in my recovery as I am now. So it is definitely good to go do that. And Joel, you missed the intro, but it's okay. It'll be recorded. So when this is over, as soon as this is over, you can go and watch it again. It was a pretty good song. What did y'all think of the song this morning? I went a little moody on it, just kind of feeling the mood. Thanks, Mark. Am I ahead of the original timeline in terms of recovering from my injury? I don't know. I know that I've worked really hard. I've from not really from day one, because I couldn't really do anything from day one, but other than kind of maintain a positive mental attitude. But I know I've been working really hard, working on strength and mobility and all that stuff. So I don't know, but I'm gonna say yes. I feel like I am. I know that the OTs really were appreciative of how much work I was doing. So with that, let's get into our main subject matter today, which so okay, really quick, I asked for people to give me some things to talk about, and if I can get to them in time, we will. I'll get to a couple of them, and I might kind of save some of them for later because they were really good suggestions as far as subject matter for today. But I do feel like the ones that I wanted to talk about, I'd want to do a little bit more research and just kind of like have a little bit more kind of backing for some of my opinions. But one of them that I can't really address is Snow Summit versus Mammoth because I've never been to Mammoth. So that means to me I need to get up to Mammoth. Maybe I'll get that this year. One of them was also about cockpit setup, and another was about drivetrain talk. One was that was from SoCal Shredder about cockpit setup. Aries Carrillo wanted me to talk about hardtails or hardtail Z. Is that like Dragon Ball Z? Michael Gray was the one about Snow Summit versus Mammoth, and Tristan Rosier wanted me to talk about drivetrains. Let me see if I can get to that towards the end. If I can, I will. Otherwise, we'll save that for another time. Good subject matters, all of those. The thing that I'd kind of come to today was talking about when. Okay, so I'm kind of a child of the 90s. And during that period, there was a lot of respect, and it was kind of considered a thing of value to be a nuanced thinker, somebody who looked at any situation or came across any subject matter, especially if it was a controversial subject matter, and thought about it in a nuanced way, was not very polarized about it, and kind of eschewed polarized thinking. And my wife and I were having a conversation the other day, just yesterday, about kind of polarized thinking and how it can be the opposite of creative thinking. And she told me the person who said that in a podcast and wanted me to give credit to that person, but I can't remember the person's name. I'll put it in the description afterwards. But if we kind of think about that in terms of mountain biking, it's really easy for any one of us to think about anything, whether it's our skills or somebody else's skills, and think about it in this kind of polar way, like, wow, I really suck at jumping, or that person is really awesome at jumping, or whatever. And I think that what that does is it phrases that in a way that is very static. And it also is kind of divisive, where it says like, that person is this and I'm this, and we are two different things. And it doesn't have the kind of nuance that allows you to think creatively. Like if you say, okay, I suck at jumping, that's just kind of a statement about where you are at, who you are, that sort of thing. And again, really quick, I'm really talking about the internal dialogue. I mean, it's one thing to just say, oh, like, that sucks. That has its own issues in terms of like our social influence. But if we're talking about, if we've got that internal dialogue about, I suck at this, or I'm no good at that, that person's really good at it, and even the opposite of I'm good at this, that can really keep us from progressing. Because if I say I suck at jumping, that doesn't get at like, what can I do about that? And a lot of the times we're doing this in contrast to somebody else, like I've just kind of been saying. So I might look at somebody else and go like, wow, they're really good at whips, and I suck at whips. But what that leaves out is, what did that person do to get good at that? And what have I done to get good at whips? If I haven't done anything, if I haven't done like, if I haven't done anything specifically to work on my skills, like Eric Ramos is over here, paying for coaching, and is doing something to get better. If I'm not doing that, then like, me saying I suck at something just kind of ignores all of that. And so, yeah. And the other thing about the kind of positive thinking is it tends to like rule things out that don't necessarily need to be ruled out. And it does that by saying, if there's one thing, if this, then that. If this is true, then that can't be true. Like one has to be true or the other has to be true. I learned this, recently about suspension. Like, can I Can I have a really supportive suspension setup that's also really plush through the chunk? Can I have a setup that is like really nice and solid and pushes back really nice on the lip of a jump, and also be able to go into a rock garden and have it be really plush? And if you're thinking about suspension in a binary way, you're going to see it as one way or the other. It either has to be soft or it has to be hard. We've even gotten questions about that, like, is it better at Snow Summit to have your suspension soft or hard? And the assumption there is you have to have one or the other. You can't have both. And our world is a lot more nuanced than that, and suspension is definitely a lot more nuanced than that. I know I have a lot of dials on my suspension. Um, yeah. So the other thing about that kind of polarized thinking is it's really easy to fall into what's known as confirmation bias. So if you tell yourself, I suck at jumping, and then you go and do jumps, you might do some sucky jumps. And that is, of course, going to confirm your belief that you suck at jumping. Also, like, I've heard people say things like, oh, the corners, Snow Summit corners are so dusty, they're hard to turn in, as opposed to being easy to turn in. So by doing that, you're also kind of letting go of your ownership of your own ability to turn and your own skills work at getting better at turning. So instead of saying they suck because they're dusty or they're hard to turn in, you can look at it and open it up and go, they're loose. How do I get better at turning in the loose? Right. Like, if you've ridden at Snow Valley, that is, turning in the loose is what you do there. So it's not about good or bad. Thank you, Eric Hollander. You're saying that it's a very appropriate topic for today's times. Yeah, don't think I just picked this at random. I've been in the comments quite a lot, and there's a lot of binary thinking, and I am constantly struggling internally with that with that kind of thinking, and always hoping to open these discussions up with other people, because if we can't find common grounds and discuss anything, whether that's political, whether that's suspension setup, whether 29 or 27 and a half, all those kind of things, there's no room for discussion. And usually that kind of discussion, that meeting of the minds, when we can get rid of the either or mentality, the right versus wrong, black and white kind of mentality, it's, once we can do that, that's usually where that kind of really creative thinking and those really innovative thoughts and innovative progressions can happen, whether just kind of in society, within our lives, within our riding. Yes, Carlos, don't grab your front brake. Absolutely. Let me check the comments real quick. From Adam Mock, great stuff, Alan. This also applies to narrative coaching, where we live out the stories playing in our minds. So the choice is living out of a story of suck or a story of growing success. Exactly. And the way I would kind of translate that is, it's like, are you in a growth mindset, or are you like in a static mindset? Are you always looking at things as a part of a progression, as part of a spectrum? You're at a point along your journey. I know I talk about that all the time. I kind of lost what I was saying, but yeah, I feel like the other thing that can kind of happen, especially like if you have this kind of polarized thinking, especially when you're in a conversation with somebody else, and very particularly when you are in a comment thread or whatever, if you're doing this online, it's really easy to see yourself as on one side of the polarization and the other person on the other side. And that will allow you to make all kinds of assumptions about that person, about their character, about they would know, and what they know and what they don't know, what they think and they don't think. And it's, as soon as we do that, it makes it really easy for us, as individuals, to make clever statements and feel like we're going to win a conversation. But it really does a disservice to, I think, what is an American tradition of intelligent argumentation and compromise. That's really kind of like that was a tradition here in the United States that used to be so powerful. I mean, from the get-go of like, it was about having intelligent discussion and measuring yourself by the quality of your opponents. I see this happen, where people will get into a discussion about anything. They get into a discussion about um, what bike park is better or whatever, and it like makes we make all these assumptions about the other person, and then we kind of start chipping away at their character and saying that, like, oh, they just, whatever the argument is, it doesn't have to be about bike parks, but we start talking about it like they're just dumb, or they're just whatever. But if they're your opponent in the argument, you have to measure yourself by how you're measuring that person. So if you always give that person the benefit of the doubt, then it's just kind of better for everybody. And I think about this also, like when I'm at the uh, when I'm at the bike park and I see another rider, and how do I assess that person? And you can make all kinds of assumptions about somebody based on what they're wearing, their bike, all that kind of stuff. But we really don't know until you've ridden with that person, and really we can kind of learn from anybody if we're open to it. Yeah, so that's kind of the main thing that I wanted to talk about today. And yes, it is definitely relevant to kind of a lot of what's going on now. I was just kind of having a conversation with somebody the other day, and there's somebody I know. I've known them for a long time, and we had a bit of a disagreement about like it was like a political stuff, but they kind of started coming at me about my character and my beliefs, and I had really kind of had to shut it down and be like, look, if we're going to discuss this, we need to be adults about it, and we need to treat each other with respect, regardless of your beliefs. We need to kind of treat each other with respect. Like, I'm not going to think of somebody as not as a valid human being because they ride XC. Um, just kidding. There's nothing wrong with XC. I have a good time on it. Road cyclists, though, on the other hand, I don't. That's the exception. Like, I will be polarized about road cycling, mostly just because there's cars. Um, yeah. Okay. So I think that kind of makes sense. I think we have just a couple of minutes. So let me see if I can kind of hit at least one of these things, one of these subject pieces that was suggested. This one's pretty straightforward. SoCal Shredder asked, maybe mention Cockpit Setup. Unless any of you have questions or anything you want me to say about what we were just talking about, hit me in the live thread in the live chat. So SoCal Shredder, maybe mention Cockpit Setup, what you like to run and why. It may help some new riders who don't know what to look for. I think the biggest thing is don't be afraid to mess with your setup. Depending on how inboard or outboard you put your brake levers, that can really make a difference as far as like aligning your wrists. But I think the main thing that I see the levers pretty low. And I think that's because people want to line up their wrists. They want to like have their wrists kind of like lined up like this as they're kind of riding. But I really feel like you should kind of have a little bit more of a tilt back so that the bar is actually set kind of more lined up with your wrist, and less kind of having to be held here. So if you kind of tilt your wrist back a little bit and your bar is in here, I don't think if I have something I can hold, but if your bar is in here and you're here, you'll find that settles in a little bit better. It does mean you kind of need a little bit, like you need decent wrist mobility. I'm actually thinking about doing a video on the MTB ALAN channel about some things that you can do to just kind of make yourself better at, or have better endurance on descending. Let me know if you want to see that. If you want me to do that, I've been kind of like writing that piece for a bit. Yeah, so that's the Cockpit Setup. Where you put your throw, like how far out your levers are, like I think that's really kind of dependent on, that's really personal, I think. And I don't do anything special to deal with arm pump on the Cockpit Setup. I mostly just work on forearm strength and mobility. Oh, one thing I have seen is if you look at the the rise of the bar, and SoCal Shredder. This is actually what I was talking about. It was like kind of going to be hard to talk about this, but if you look at the rise of the bar and you look at the angle of that, so if you look at the side and you'll see like the base of the bar, and then it'll like kind of come up, and you have the other part. That angle between that, it's really, I suggest having that lined up with the angle of your fork. So if you drew a straight line from those 2 points, they would kind of be parallel with your fork. So you have nice kind of, you don't have like a torque going on. So if it's too far back, and you're pressing on it, it's going to be kind of torquing this way and vice versa. So that's kind of the other thing I would say about cockpit setup. Cool. All right. We are coming to the end here. I'm going to give you all a little bit of time if you want to drop any quick questions in the chat. Feel free to do that. If not, we will wrap it up. I'll take a quick beverage drink to give you a little bit of time. Abbas Hamdani said you've got to cancel your Mammoth trip now. That sucks. Oh man, it's funny because like I said, I'm planning that trip to Snow Summit, that kind of like long weekend in Snow Summit, and last weekend I was actually kind of like riding a little bit more tentatively because I didn't want to like crash and get injured right before going on a trip, and then yeah. What's funny though is like by doing that, I think I ended up on one of those days kind of falling over on Miracle Mile because I was riding it more tentatively than usual. And that is not a trail that's well ridden tentatively. Brian Anthony, when's the next group ride? Well, we've got COVID right now. We're all doing group rides with COVID right now. So once that's kind of cleared up, then we'll start thinking about group rides. Because that's just really kind of hard to manage. Yeah, that would be rad though. I do kind of like I kind of miss that sort of thing. I know. So like the Path Bike Shop and I did a little bit of collaboration just before COVID hit, where we did a group ride where they organized it. It was actually really cool because they organized it. They ran it. They did the lead. They had the sweep. I didn't have to do any of that. I just kind of hung out and rode with everybody. So I could just like be there and have fun. So I think if I do a group ride, I will maybe still organize it with the Path, just because it makes it a lot more fun. Also, I love the Path, and they're just a great shop. It was also really cool because they know like the people like that would be leading that ride would just know the trails a lot more. So we could even do stuff where like I don't even know the trails and we'll just go and I can get to ride stuff blind with you. So yeah. Carlos Go, have you ridden up in NorCal, for instance, Santa Cruz? If so, I'd love to hear your opinion on the spot. I did a trip to Santa Cruz last year and it was a total blast. We did the UC trails, the quote unquote off menu trails up by the UC, and then we did SoCal Demo Forest. We actually did 2 laps on Flow. That's kind of a long story. I don't really have time to get into that, but yes, we rode SoCal. Amazing. I would love to go up and hit Saw Pit, so maybe I can make a trip this year. Conditioning for long downhills? Question mark. I don't feel in shape for bike parks for my from my local riding. From Eric Hollander. Yeah, conditioning for downhills. Well, what's nice about a lot of the bike parks is there's places to stop so you can take a quick break. But yeah, I should do a video on that. Like I said, I've been riding one. I'm gonna do 2 more questions or 1 more question, and then I gotta sign off because it's 9 o'clock and my work day is about to start. Dennis Cortez, are you on clipless or flats? What's your take on them? Actually, I rode clipless when my first go at mountain biking back in the early 2000s, and I did it because that's what my buddies were doing, and they were all very kind of XC. And I am now flat pedals, 510 shoes, and I don't think I'll ever go back to clipless. I just really prefer the flat pedals. Yeah. All right, everybody, it's time for me to sign off. I really appreciate everybody showing up again. If you have a Stoke of the week, I hope you do. If you don't, start looking for one and put it in the comments of this video, or really, actually in this video. Yeah, don't put it anywhere else because it's hard for me to find. And then I will share them next week. Thank you for coming. If you're here, you're probably already subscribed. If you're not subscribed, I don't know why you're not. Hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you in the next Raw vlog. I'm hoping to get live on Tony's channel in a week or two, but it'll probably be on his channel. That's the other piece of news I forgot to tell you. All right. Thanks, everybody, for coming, and I will see you next time. You have a good day, everybody.